Hold on. Let's go any higher. Okay. It's important for you to see the background. Okay. For those that here, of course you can't see me, but let me know if you can see the background clearly. Let me know. Let me see. When you're here, let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. Let me know if you can hear me clearly. And also let me know if you can see things clearly on the whiteboard. Please, thank you very much. Thanks for the 2 thumbs up. Everyone that watched this, please hit the like button. That will help this live stream to be shared by the YouTube algorithm. So thank you very much for doing that. I'm Ari Dasset, or for those who have been following for a while, Rashid. And in this live stream, we're going to talk about ritual homicide in the Netherlands. Yes, it happens. And to explain that, I'll explain a little bit of Dutch history and about how this demonic pattern has went throughout Dutch history, as you can see over here. But all of that, I'll start at 4 minutes. The reason I do this is so that people can come in. Tammy, I'm glad you're here. I'm doing this live stream in English because most of my subscribers speak English. And the more people know about this, the better it is. That's why I do it in English. So I was planning to do this in Dutch, but I'll do this in English for practical reasons. All right. Again, I'll start at 4 minutes. All right. Tammy is here. Maria is here. Glad you're here, Maria. Hold on. Meanwhile, I'll write down some notes down here. All right. Let's see. Dion is here. I'm glad you're here, Dion. Almost 4 minutes. We'll now begin. Good. Class has begun. So, a little bit about the Netherlands. The Netherlands today is a kingdom located in the west of Europe at the North Sea. And it used to be bigger, including Belgium and Luxembourg, but in 1830, the Catholic Church wanted to preserve the Catholic economy, so they reduced it. And so, but I'm not going to talk that much about all the Catholic drama that much. But anyway, so you know, the Belgium used to be part of the Netherlands too. And Dutch people used to include people of the southern Netherlands because Belgium used to be called the southern Netherlands or the Austrian Netherlands later on when Austria took over the area. So we're in the 17th century. But okay. Now, the Dutch people, I'm not talking about everyone born in the Netherlands, okay? I'm talking about the ethnic native Dutch people. They come from Germanic tribes. The Germanic tribes are descendants of Gomer. Gomer was one of the sons of Japheth. Japheth was the son of Noah. So Japheth brought forth Gomer, and Gomer's descendants, one of them being Ashkenaz, he brought forth the Norse peoples, or which later also received the name Germanic peoples when they moved towards the south. And one of those Germanic men that came out of the line of Ashkenaz was a guy called Inke or In. Inke or In was the one who lived with his family near what they call the wetlands of the Netherlands. And you have wetlands going from the Netherlands all the way to Denmark. In Dutch, you call it Wadden. So we call it the wetlands islands or Waddeneilanden. So we have so Inke or In with his family. Inke had orange reddish hair as well as his children and his descendants. So Inke and his family lived there at the North Sea, and later his children, together with some Germanic wives and Germanic husbands, they settled in that part of the North Sea, and from him came forth the Saxon people, the Anglo people, and various other Germanic tribes, which later moved all the way in Middle Europe. But a big portion of his family settled at this low, how do I say again? Not desert, it's not a desert, but this low swamp landscape, which we later call the Netherlands. And there were 4 tribes that came forth from Inke in this area. One of them being the Frisi, this is where you get the Frisians from. Those who lived more in the north. And today you also have the province of the Netherlands called Friesland, which has its own language, Frisian. Okay? So you had the Frisi you had, then you had the Batavi. The Batavi lived more towards the south, towards what today we call the Dutch province of North Brabant and Dutch province Limburg, and also what the area which they call Belgium, which we consider a country. Then you had the Flavi. That's how the Flevo Sea was called. Now today, there's an island, artificial island, that the Dutch that has built several decades ago called Flevoland. But Flevoland is artificial. They throw sand in the sea till they make it dry and have new land. Okay, but around that sea, there used to be the Flavi tribe. Okay, and then you have the Calinifates or Calinifati. Well, this name is a bit of a controversy because it has a kind of a hidden cuss word in it referring to dogs, but, well, the Calinifati were not one tribe, there were several households who lived in the area we today call North and South Holland. So, but the Greeks called them that way, and the Romans took it over, Calinifates, and the Calinifati later changed their name into Holland, the area where they live, and later divided in North and South Holland. So when you say Holland, you refer to 2 provinces, North and South Holland. And in ancient times, those 2 areas together were inhabited by the Calinifati. And the Calinifati, they were kind of looked down upon by the ancient world. The Batawi, on the other hand, they were warrior-like. And the Frisi, they were quite rich in general. So the Frisi eventually paid out tribute to Rome, which allowed them to have their own autonomy. The Calinifati eventually, under Emperor Hadrian, they got some honor, and their capital received this code, MAC, you pronounce it as MAC, and that is Municipium Allium Calinifatium. Municipium Allium Calinifatium. Municipium means municipality. That was an honorary title that some cities received by the Romans, once you prove your loyalty to the empire. Allium refers to the last name of Emperor Hadrian, and Calinifatium refers after Calinifati. So and this MAC, this city, which was the capital of Calinifati, was located near what they call Rijswijk, which is close to The Hague. Unfortunately, the capital of Calinifati was destroyed in the early Middle Ages, so they rebuilt the capital, but a little bit more towards the sea, and they called it 's-Gravenhage, or in simple Dutch, Den Haag, in English, The Hague. Okay, and that's why the Dutch government is in The Hague. That's in harmony with the tradition of their Calinifati ancestors. And A lot of the Catholic fighting also moved towards Scotland later in history, that's in the early Middle Ages. And this tradition, referred to MAC, was taken over. That's why you have a lot of people with last names starting with MC or MAC, like McDonald's or McKinnon or whatever. So now you also know the origin why they use MC or MAC in many of the last names in Britain and later also the United States. It comes from Municipium Allium Canonifatium. And it was the predecessor of the present day The Hague. Okay, so that is about Dutch history from ancient times towards the Middle Ages. Now, the Germanic peoples, they worshipped the deity Wodan. Or far further in the north in Scandinavia, they called him Odin. Now, Wodan is another name for Baal Ammon. His real name is Baal Ammon. He's a fallen angel. He was an angelic king in the heavens. He was an angelic being with a leadership position in the heavens. Okay? This angelic king was banned with Satan from heaven because he participated in the sexual invasion of the human species that you can read about in Genesis chapter 6. I won't go too much into that right now because it's a whole nother topic. But anyway, just so you know, Baal Ammon, he swallowed male blood of human males, and he was able to metaphysically transform himself into a fake physical form, and was in that form began to rape a lot of females on the earth, and out of him came forth some Nephilim offspring. But I explained how that all works in various other videos and live streams. But just so you know, Baal Ammon is a mass rapist and also a sociopath, by the way, and he's banned from heaven, and he's filled with diseases, and is waiting in the lake of fire. That's him. However, fallen mankind, after the flood of Noah, for some reason thought it may be relevant to give homage to this creep over here. And after the tower in Babel, the Stargate Nimrod wanted to build in Babel, when that failed, and people scattered out the earth, the descendants of Ashkenaz kind of thought it may be relevant to give homage to Baal Ammon, and they had two other names for him, Odin, and the other one, Wodan. Well, they could have just served the Heavenly Father, but, well, they served that other creep in general. And there was a specific day during the week when they worship him. That is the center of the week, and that's where you get the name Wednesday. In Dutch, it's Woensdag. In German, they call it Mittwoch, the center of the week, because they don't want to use Woensdag anymore in Germany, or because since the Middle Ages somewhere, there was an emperor who said, we're not going to use any reference to Wodan anymore. All right? Now, so that's a bit of the spiritual background of the ancestors of the current day Dutch people. I talk about the native indigenous Dutch people. If you came to the Netherlands and received a Dutch passport and also a Dutchman, then I'm not talking about your ancestors, unless you have one of your parents or grandparents who was a native Dutchman. I'm talking about the descendants of the people from these tribes over here. Now, this worship of Wodan, it was suppressed by the Romans because the Germanics were a bit extreme, to say the least, in it, in what they were doing. So it was suppressed, and later the gospel reached the Netherlands, so a lot of believers came, a lot of people came born again also, and it was a mass exodus of pagans into the gospel that happened. But then the Roman Empire realized, man, we're losing. Satan realized he was losing, so from that point on, the demons, that means Satan, all the demons became dependent on believers. So the pagan structure now had to fake being a believers themselves. This is where the Catholic Church from. And since then, the Catholic Church, established by Emperor Constantine in the 4th century AD, they began to Christianize all those Germanic traditions were over here. So let's go back. First, you had Hellenization that took place. What is Hellenization? Hellenization is to make the world more like Greece. Like this is the policy you had in the Greek Empire, to make everything more Greek. So you had Hellenization that occurred. when the Greek Empire was renewed into Rome as a Roman Empire, it became Romanization because Rome is actually a refined version of Greece. I mean, that's what it was a refined version of Greece. For example, the Greeks would be quite open with their pederasty and the institutionalized pedophilia and all of that, but the Romans would do the same, but more behind the scenes. And the Romans were a bit more friendly towards females in general than those in Greece itself. But anyway, Romanization was a policy by those Greek rulers because they spoke Greek. It was a policy to harmonize the relations with the Celtic tribes and the Germanic tribes, because the Celtic Germanic tribes couldn't stand much of their open hatred of females. So Hellenization, Romanization became Christianization. And Christianization went all the way till the 1500s. Okay? Now, what happened around 1490 and the 1490s? Columbus had journeys across the ocean. So after that, you had the era of colonization that began in 1500, okay, under the lead of the Catholic Church. And so till the 1500s, it was the Netherlands just being shaped by foreign policy, to be frank. There was a short time that the Vikings ran the Netherlands, and the Netherlands was kind of like an independent power in the North Sea, but that lasted very briefly. Till the 1500s was mainly foreigners that actually decided how things were run over here. Now, how did the dark side keep a grip over this population? Well, every area has a demonic pattern that they use to trap the population. Every area has it. So, what was the blueprint that the paranormal used over here? Well, I wrote here down dual trauma. Okay? Now, what's dual trauma? It goes like this. The pattern used over here was a pattern of you victimize your own people, but at the same time you victimize an outsider worse. So at the end of the day, both the insiders, your own people, are victimized, as well as those outsiders that took advantage of. But because you make sure that the outsiders, that their victimization is open in everyone's face, the insiders going to be exposed to what is happening over there. And the insiders going to think, whoa, at least we're not worse off like they are. And then they are blinded from seeing what's happening to them over here. So that's the blueprint of dual trauma. Okay? And that was the pattern being used over here. Now, why would the dark side use this pattern over here? It is because this area used to be a hub for trade. It was like that during the Roman Empire. That's why the Romans built Trajectum Patavorum. Trajectum Patavorum was a Roman settlement for the military, and a small town emerged around it, and later this town became the city of Utrecht. That's why it still have the U in it, and Trecht. Trecht comes from Trajectum. So this place used to be a hub. Okay? Now, if you use an area as a hub, the last thing you want is that the locals find out that they have potential. Because if you use a place as a hub for trade, your goal is to make sure that the locals never realize this, because once the locals realize it, those are going to demand benefits. You don't want that. So you want the locals to be content with their current situation. You don't want them to realize, hold on a minute, if we are a transfer hub for international trade, we should be the ones deciding over our benefits or what happens to us over here. You don't want that. So you use dual trauma to trick the people into being content, being overlooked. Before I continue, is this part of dual trauma clear to you? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. Okay. So Zen understands. Does the rest understand it too? Dual trauma. That was the blueprint the Romans used here, and all the other pagan administrators did the same thing. Make sure the public never realizes they have any potential, any value. Now, around the 1500s, this was how they enacted. What you see here, I divided Dutch history in certain time periods. These time periods are based on key events that changed how this dual trauma was exercised. Now, the dual trauma is still being exercised on the public, but the way they do it has changed over time. So, let me see if I need to get any closer here. Hold on. For example, what you see over here is around 1500s, you had an agricultural surplus and predictability that were used as fake benefits. Because when it comes to dual trauma, you need to offer fake benefits to your own people. Those fake benefits doesn't even have to be real benefits, but you have to let your own people that you want to hold back receive fake benefits. Why? Because if the people get satisfied with fake benefits, well, actually, satisfied is a extreme word because you can't ever be satisfied with something fake. But if the people are filled with fake benefits, they'll never realize that actual benefits are withheld from them. So, and here you can see the blue here are the fake benefits that were the norm that they used, and the red was the open victimization that they used on quote-unquote outsiders. And sometimes they used on their own people too, but the people didn't notice it. And here you see, I draw the Dutch flag, red and blue. Blue here refers to the fake benefits. The blue is a color in paganism that stands for order and peace. So you use fake benefits to calm down the people. And at the same time, you openly violate another portion that you consider outsiders as a blood sacrifice to power the demons. And the white refers to innocence. So that's why the flag is shaped that way. And there was another flag in which instead of red, use orange, because orange refers to secret knowledge, which is also a color they use for Freemasonry. But Freemasonry became more popular later on in history. But just so you understand. Yes. The stimulus check is a kind of a way they do it in the United States right now, but more about it later. So, around the 1500s, you had the Dutch authorities back then, they were managed by the Spanish. Eventually, they were managed from Spain. Eventually, but before that, they used to just have deals with the cities throughout the northern of Europe, and they developed treaties with cities all the way to the Baltics. Okay, so what was the purpose of this? To get an agricultural surplus. The thing is, most of the people that lived over here back then were farmers. And as a farmer, living in an area that's for most part a swamp landscape is a bit challenged to be a farmer. And you also had cities back then. Now, if the majority of the population, which lived on farms, if they would rise up against you, you're in trouble. So the pagan elites back then decided, you know what, let's make deals with other pagans that run cities elsewhere, and we make sure that we can import grain in big amounts for the public. So this agricultural surplus. What's the common benefit of that? Then the young people think, hey, I don't need to work that hard on farms because hey, we can get bread easily. And predictability simply refers to keeping things the same. When worldly people don't know, when worldly people get fake comfort, so they don't have to face challenges, they think they're safe. So that's what they will use as fake benefits. But what was the open victimization? What's going on? Well, if they found you with the Bible at home, reading the gospel for yourself, you were called a heretic and you were hanged or you were burned alive. That's what they're doing. And those that were openly into woman worship, they would also conduct some ritual torture on various of the people around also. So those are the stuff they're doing. There was a whole sadistic, I would say movement, that's too big, but it's a whole sadistic sector in amongst the Dutch back then of people who were kidnapping folks and torturing them. So just so you know. Now, at some point, um, during the colonial, during the colonization of the Americas, the King of Spain, and by the way, it was a Dutch young man born over here. Karel was his name in Dutch. English is Charles. Charles became King of Spain and various other areas. So eventually, the Netherlands was run from Spain, and the King of Spain right now is on the Netherlands to what? To finance his colonization of the Americas. The Dutch refused, so there was a conflict of interest in economics, and the Dutch decided to declare independence. Well, I won't give you the whole history of the Dutch revolt and all of that, especially if you're Dutch yourself, you learned in school also. What happened was that from that point on, there was actually a civil war in the Netherlands. You had the Roman Catholics and you had the Protestants. Now, the Protestants had nothing to do with the Pope and all of that, but they want to have a church structure. The Catholics say, no, we have to remain loyal to both the King of Spain as well as to the Pope. So during this there was a civil war, and this civil war revealed how unstable the area is. Now, due to the investments in North and South America by the Spanish and also the Portuguese, the Netherlands kind of began to lose its relevancy as a trade hub. So they had to shift their policies. What they do? The pagan authorities, I don't refer to just the government, because I'm talking about the devil worshippers that were around here back then. They realized we need to change what they do. They used the teachings of Jean Calvin, which in English John Calvin. They used the Calvinist ideas and implement them in the Netherlands. And the Calvinist ideas kind of developed a semi-depressive state in the public. You know what I mean? Always working hard, and it's all about going to heaven. So that the Calvinism kind of became the tool they used just to shut the people up. Say, no, in this lifetime, no such thing as enjoying life or whatever. No. You have to work hard, work. And once you get the profit, rest for a little while for your body, then work again. This harsh work ethic was pushed on the masses by the devil worshippers who faked being believers. And they used the teachings of Jean Calvin, this Frenchman, to do this. Okay? So this Calvinistic background of the Netherlands, now you know where it comes from. And they use this Calvinistic background to generate a pirate fleet. So they cut down many trees in the Netherlands, they sacrificed many forests, they did, and they built a pirate fleet. And when they built a pirate fleet, what did they do? They went out to conquer the Portuguese territories. But here's the thing. They realized that conquering the Portuguese territories wouldn't go that easy. Okay? And they were also at a conflict with Spain. Now we know this war was orchestrated behind the scenes, but still on a daily level there was conflict. So what did they do? You had 17 families, 17 pagan families that joined forces together, and the heads of those families, the patriarchs of those families, which were called, they called themselves the Lords 17, they joined forces together and they established the Dutch East Indies Company. In Dutch it's VOC. Okay? And this corporation received a monopoly by the States General. Because remember, the Netherlands was in conflict with Spain then, so they had a war regime over here, States General. The general refers to the war regime. Okay, so it was a war regime that allowed this corporation to exploit the Portuguese territories in Asia. At the same time, he also started another company just to take over the transatlantic slave trade. Now, the transatlantic slave trade was already going on, evicting people from Africa, transporting them to the Americas, happening among the Portuguese and also Spanish. When those devil worshippers in the Netherlands took it over, they decided we're going to take over completely. Send ships all the time. Depopulated area, we don't care. That's what they were doing. Now, that's when the quote-unquote golden era began of the Dutch Republic. It was a republic, but it was a Prince of Orange governing it. So that's a contradiction over there. How can you be a republic, but you have a prince governing the area? Anyway, the public back then fell for it. So 1580 to 1670, or my bad, 1672, because that's when the Dutch, the golden era actually ended. What happened is that there was easy trade offers to the public, because the pagan authorities over here, they kind of used their pirate fleets to take over the whole world's economy. Yes, the Dutch controlled the world's economy at some point. And they import a lot of tulips to the Netherlands from Turkey, so tulips also became kind of like a symbol of the Netherlands since then. By the way, if you travel from Leiden towards the Dutch airport Schiphol, you have a field with tulips. Right now, maybe the tulip, not because it's winter, but in the spring you will find, also in the summer. So tulips became like a symbol of the Netherlands since then. But anyway, in that area, easy trade, religious tolerance, because they were telling, hey, in the Netherlands you can be whatever you want. We don't care. Oh, but this religious tolerance was also an open door for the pagans to do their ritual sacrifices at ease. So witchcraft was a tolerated discipline here in the Netherlands. Yes. There were a lot of witches over here, to be frank. This is one of the epicenters of witchcraft in Europe. But anyway, I'll come back to it later. And it was also moral superiority. They were telling Dutch people, you guys are Calvinists. You guys are following the teaching of the anointed man Calvin. You guys are hard workers. You're not like those lazy Spaniards exploiting people in the Americas. No, you guys are good people. The world should see your example. They would use this religious pat on the back to motivate the people to keep working hard. So they're being told they exploited their own people too. Okay, so meanwhile, the open victimization to the outsider was the transatlantic slave trade. Also, the pirate fleets also began to exploit the East Indies. Later, we call Indonesia and Malaysia. Now, at some point, we got enough of this tyranny. So in 1672, there was a war, and France, under Louis XIV or Louis XIV, he shut down the Netherlands in one day attacking it. He also attacked many believers who were over here, but that backfired on France later on, leading to the quote-unquote French Revolution, which was right over the place. But anyway, since then, 1672 to 1795, I love that year. 1795 was the year that the Dutch population rose up and kicked out the Prince of Orange. They kicked out their own government because they were tired and fed up with how they were being treated. Finally, they stood up. However, I don't know what happened to those revolutionaries. It seems to me that the Dutch public turned on them and killed them later on. But okay. Anyway, 1672 to 1795. 1795 is also the official year that the Haitian Revolution emerged. As a lot of people say, actually, it emerged earlier, but that's the date historians use also. But actually, the Haitian Revolution became earlier, but that's the year they used. 1795 is also the year that there was a slave revolt on Curaçao, which was then a Dutch territory, led by Tula. So that also is 1795. But anyway, what became the fake benefits then? Hiding. So they were hiding their historical humiliation of what happened in 1672, and there was migrant labor. So from now on, there was a lot of migrants from the east of Europe and other places coming to the Netherlands temporarily to do work. So now the local farmers, as well as local businessmen, could take advantage of cheap labor from elsewhere. So the Netherlands kind of became like a trade hub, a trade hub in workers. And there were slaves also that you could import from the Caribbean. The slaves were transported, but that's another case. And it was also cheap, sweet products also, but that led to health issues, so that wasn't really a benefit. Again, the open victimization was transatlantic slave trade, and of course the Dutch East Indies. Now, 1795 to 1815, the Revolutionary era, followed by occupation by the Napoleonic forces, patriotism became the thing. The public was told, we need to be patriotic, you need to defend your heritage. So patriotism was established back then. And here's the thing, the revolutionary government of the Netherlands, man, it was a big joke. Look at it yourself. They couldn't even keep a president for longer than a few weeks. So the revolutionary government that came was a big joke. So eventually the Dutch surrendered to France. Eventually, when Napoleon arrived and here the public just surrendered easily. Like, we don't want to bother with this. They were disappointed, and later, 1806, Napoleon's little brother Luigi became king of the Netherlands. Till 1810, when the younger brother said, Napoleon, take back the country, I'm disappointed. Why? Because the Dutch public didn't treat Luigi that well. Okay, also expected. Okay, patriotism. Also, this victim mentality, we are occupied by the French. Now, what was the victimization happened? They were excluding the Catholics. They were taking out their disappointment on the Catholic population. And yet the times like the slave trade also went on in the background, but it kind of came to a halt a little bit. Then 1815, when the House of Orange was restored, now turned into a kingdom, united with the South, Kingdom of the Netherlands, under William I. And, well, that union did not last very long, because the Catholic Church wanted the South of the Netherlands back to establish their economy. So the Kingdom of Belgium was signed by the Catholic Church to retain their Catholic grip over Europe, though to the fall of the Spanish Empire. It happened at the same time. All right? What became the fake benefits offered then? Okay, let me go over here. Yes, city life was promoted, so in cities you had a lot of carnivals. They provide a lot of easy access to alcohol, so they were luring people towards the cities. And by doing that, they were taking land away from families, because before that, families had land most of the time. Yet poor folks, which a lot of people lived in villages with farms, so they began to increase the cities and depopulate the small villages. That was to get a better grip over the population. So city life was promoted. You had factories in cities where you could work. You had flats over there, and they provided carnivals. There were parties with a lot of alcohol, just so that the public would shut up. For example, if you worked hard, just get some beer or get some wine or get some shots, and you're okay. You get drunk. So that was also introduced. So this culture of drinking a lot after work, whatever, it was introduced around this era. It was the era of industrialization that went on. Now again, this time they victimized own people only. Disowned many families. A lot of family wealth was destroyed. Threats like the slave trade and the exploitation of the Indonesian population and the Malay population continued also. Well, eventually, the influence of the Kingdom of Prussia, not Russia, Prussia, or in German Preußen, was in Dutch is Pruisen. That was a German kingdom that kind of became dominant. Well, Prussia already had its dominance over the Netherlands anyway, but the Prussians under Otto von Bismarck established the German Empire, and the Netherlands was not included in it. They could have done it, but they didn't include it. So that's what happened in 1870. And from 1870 till 1945, yes, a lot happened in those time periods. You had the First World War, Second World War, and all of that. But from 1870 to 1945, that was kind of the Romantic era. This revival of Germanic paganism was hot, and because of the rise of the German Empire, there was this close brotherly affection almost between the Netherlands and the German Empire. Well, it was brotherly, because that's what it was supposed to be, but in fact, the German Empire took advantage of the Netherlands and the Dutch Empire. So they didn't annex the Netherlands and formally say you're part of the German Empire right now, because that would mean that the King of Prussia, which is now the German Emperor, also would have to take care of Indonesia, the ends of Suriname. So they left the Dutch outside of their empire formally, but they still used their economic dominance to overrule the Netherlands. And the Netherlands, around this time, they had females on the throne. Okay, so, and as you know, amongst those ranks, the man is preferred, if you get what I'm saying. So, political participation became the fake benefit used at the time. At the same time, was segregation in the Netherlands. You had the Catholics having their life over there. You had the Protestants over here, the liberals over there, so people can avoid one another. Worldlings want relief. So again, the victimization was again the threat of the slave trade now didn't continue that more. They still exploited the East Indies, but you also had this German fetish that emerged. And this German fetish, again referring to the German Empire, also led to many collaborators that rejoiced when Nazi Germany took over. Because finally, we have strong male leadership, as if Hitler had any leadership to begin with, but okay. And yes, in the Netherlands, the collaborators with the Nazis were called NSB, or NSB folks, or Dutch NSB'ers. Well, after the Second World War, a lot of them were humiliated and shamed. Also, a lot of women who had sexual relationships with German officers were shamed throughout the Netherlands. That was a bit cruel, but it happened. So after 1945, what was the path? How did this dual trauma continue? Now, you had liberal escapism. So this live and let live attitude, and you had this artificial American culture that was imported in the Netherlands as an escape. Later, feminism was added to it, multiculturalism, and the thing is, they victimize their own people now by submitting them to corporations, which impoverish the public even more, and there was mass migration that they allowed in, and because of that, the unity amongst the public was undermined. So, that's how it's going on till now. There is this so-called Great Reset coming up, or to build back better. It's going to be a big failure because what they wanted to build back better was to go back to the feudal system of the past, but it's going to be a bit difficult to do that, and they want to do it on a digital level. That's why this digitalization I want to enforce worldwide. Okay? All right. I took a while now to go through all this history just to show you that this dual trauma has always been a blueprint that the pagan authorities, because I don't recognize them as authority, the world does, those pagan authorities inflicted on the population over here. In Belgium, they continue to do it on the Dutch-speaking population, but they do it a little bit different than, of course, have in the rest of the Netherlands. Meanwhile, the pagan quote-unquote authorities, all the way in the colonial era, they established the Anglo-Dutch banking system, which later became Wall Street, or the center of capitalism. So the Dutch aristocracy became influential worldwide with their banking system, which is in existence still this day. Even though the banking system crashed in 2008, they'll try to keep it alive till now. But now it needs to be reset. So, and this guy, Klaus Schwab, who was the founder of the World Economic Forum, talks about the Great Reset. And so now, again, it's a revival of this German fetish to get along again with this reset plan. And we'll see how it's going to clash and crash. It's going to clash and crash. Be sure of it. Now, this Anglo-Dutch banking system, you have it worldwide, okay? But it has to be, they can't maintain it anymore. Because the Anglo-Dutch banking system relied on slave bonds and slave mortgages, as I explained in another live stream already. Now, why it's important to understand this dual trauma? Because the dual trauma is the blueprint that those devil worshippers use to both shut the public up at the same time to make sure that the public never notices that they are being taken advantage of. All right? So you have this Calvinist mindset of hard work. And that's why the Dutch have this punctual attitude. Time is money, time is money, time. Why? Because Wodan, again, is Baal Ammon, and Wodan was also called Chronos by the Greeks, father time. Okay? So, father time. So time, this measurement we use to measure seasons and duration, is your father. And when your father calls you, you're respectful. So be punctual, be on time. Father time, the worship of Baal Ammon, or Wodan worship. So this punctual attitude of the Dutch, always be on time, because if you're not on time, you're wasting my time and I don't get the time back and I'm about to die soon. I will never get back time wasted. So this whole fear of wasting time or losing time is a fearful attitude that's unnatural because you cannot control life itself. It's impossible. But the worshippers of woe don't think that they can control life. It subject life to patterns. So this whole being punctual and on time all the time, this pressure from Dutch culture is woe don't worship. It's devil worship. So, and by the way, the Heavenly Father didn't even create time. He created day and night and seasons. We human beings generated this measurement called time to measure days and nights and seasons and years. Nothing wrong with developing a measurement, but the moment you claim that measurement, that's idolatry. Okay? So a lot of Dutch culture is actually covert devil worship that a lot of people aren't even aware of. Okay? This Calvinistic attitude, which became the breeding place of capitalism. Work hard, work hard, work hard, work. Okay, that's how you exploit the public because they keep working all the time. And because they work all the time, they're exhausted. And then you tell them, don't be proud and rejoice because you can lose any time. So also this fear of you're not allowed to claim anything good in life. And also make sure that you're on time to always work hard. Well, what does it do to a public? It generates a distant added climate in the public. And because that the public cannot unify easily. So, again, being punctual on time can be handy if you to catch an airplane. Can be handy if you to take the bus to go somewhere. So being punctual can be a good attitude for practical reasons. But you're not going to make being punctual your lifestyle and your life philosophy. That goes so far. And by the way, Wodan, or Baal, or its ruling Baal Ammon, was also called Saturnus by the Romans. That's where you get the Saturnalia celebration from, which later became Christmas. And another form of Saturnus or Saturn is Saint Nicholas. The Roman Catholic Church Christianized Saturnus as Saint Nicholas. And from Saint Nicholas, you have the Dutch Sinterklaas. Okay? And from Sinterklaas later, you develop Santa Claus. So, Father Christmas, or Santa Claus, or Saturnus, as said in Latin in the Roman Empire, or refers to Baal Ammon, who is Wodan. Okay? And by the way, in the United States, in the beginning, Christmas was even celebrated by many people because they considered it a horrible holiday. When the Dutch migrants kept moving to the United States in the 19th century, they began to celebrate Christmas their way with Sinterklaas. And later, they shaped Sinterklaas into this thing called Santa Claus. So, the Dutch migrants reinforced celebration of Christmas in the United States. Now, I'm not saying there were no people celebrating Christmas in the United States of independence. There were. But the general public didn't even want that. The Dutch came and made it more popular. Okay? So, now you know all of this. How do you keep all of this going? You need to keep the trauma on the population because those fake benefits are fake. If you only give fake benefits, eventually the public's going to realize something's wrong here. And if you keep showing how others are treated badly, that can also backfire because people don't think, why are we doing something about other people being treated poorly? So what do? You make sure the people around you are distracted by trauma rituals you conduct on them on a regular basis. Now this is really how the game works because to the devil worshippers it's a game. Now we know it's just human lives are not to play with, but devil worshippers they play with human lives on behalf of Satan. Okay, this is what they do. Now, you make sure that a vulnerable member of the community goes missing. It can be someone's little child, or it can be a young woman, just someone that's considered vulnerable by the community. Make sure a vulnerable member of the community goes missing. For example, you can have a village, and I'm using it, Gerda comes home, and Gerda finds out that her 4-year-old daughter, Emma, is not home. Now Gerda goes to her husband, Peter, saying, Peter, where is Emma? We can't find her. And then the whole village thinking, where's Emma? Let's look for her. So then you scare the public over there. Then people in nearby towns also think, oh, there's a little girl missing over there. What could have happened? And then, once that goes on, a few days later, guess what? They find the body of the 4-year-old girl. This is going to stir up anger in the public, thinking, who the heck would harm a 4-year-old girl? Who's that coward? Who's him? Let's find him. And the men are going to be upset also. And this was going to happen then. Now, when the emotions of the public stir up, out of the blue, the authorities come and say, hey, here's the guy. This is Patrick. This is the loser. And then people get upset with Patrick, and then the courthouse convicts Patrick either to death. Well, eventually in the Netherlands they abolish the death penalty, or he goes for in prison for life, and then the public kind of got eased again. And because it got eased, they're happy things are back to normal. But what happened meanwhile was that they continued the game, and people weren't even aware of it. Now, this spell works for 2 or 3 years. But the thing is, the devil worshippers don't wait 2 or 3 years to do another ritual. One trauma ritual has been conducted, and before they were even able to process that, there's another trauma ritual going on. This time it's a 25-year-old woman that goes missing. And you make sure it's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white female like many women in the Netherlands are, so that everyone can relate to the trauma. Because when you do a trauma ritual, you have to relate to it. If you have a Chinese guy going missing, I'm not saying it will not affect people, but hey, he doesn't look like them, so they can't recognize themselves in him. So you make sure that the victims you use are people they can relate to. Because if they can relate themselves psychologically to the victim, the trauma will affect them. If they can't relate directly to the victim, the trauma will not have such an effect on them. So that's how they do it. So every year, you have these devil worshippers going out, checking where is neglect in the community. If they enter into Rotterdam and see, there's a school over here, but the parents are a bit neglectful. They don't really pick up their children from school on time and all of that. They say, this is an opportunity for us. You go over there, and one of these days, make sure you come with 2 children, please. I don't care how you do it. Make sure the handler goes out, hires people from the streets to do the job for him. And sometimes you have devil worshippers working in daycare and working at schools even, so the insiders that work at the schools and daycares, so devil worshippers will help them out. And then children are kidnapped, and they do what they do to make sure there's pain in the community. It's about the pain. The pain must continue. The pain must never fade away. Always make sure the pain is present. That's what the devil worshippers do. So what happens is that over time, the public gets used to the pain. They begin to see the pain as part of life. They begin to see the pain as just the way it is. Eventually, the public doesn't even realize anymore that they're traumatized. They don't even realize anymore that the way they deal with life is not really how you should deal with life. But again, that's why you have to fake benefits to distract them, to make sure that they think life is good for them while it's not. Well, this pandemic situation kind of made it hard to keep this game going. So now they have a problem how to continue this game. But you know what? Hey, I'm glad they have a problem how to keep up this game. This game should even exist. But that's how it goes. Make sure the pain continues. And because the public now has gotten used to this level of pain and anxiety, if you tell them that that woman that went missing was later found dead, if you tell them that was a ritual sacrifice, will tell you, man, cut out with this. Have some sympathy and some empathy for the parents. The parents have to bury their daughter, okay? Her fiance lost love his life. And now you talk about it's a ritual murder, cut out, man. This emotional defense comes up. But what you're saying is a fact, but the people cannot handle the process because they got used to being traumatized, got used to the anxiety. And so their bodies are relying on the anxiety now. So it also had a biological harmful effect on them. Also their brains have been slightly damaged by all the stress and anxiety. Yes, those pagan rituals to do on the masses, it causes brain damage due to the overwhelming anxiety and stress it produces. So you make sure, from the perspective of the pagan authorities, from the devil worshippers, I mean, authorities, you make sure that there's enough anxiety in the public that will develop brain damage in the public. Even though the brain damage is minor, still brain damage, that will slow them down from functioning. At the same time, you overwhelm them with fake benefits. And that's where this media image from the Netherlands comes from, this liberal paradise. This liberal paradise image of the Netherlands is something those devil worshippers generated so that the public that lives here thinks, hey, we are a liberal paradise, you're free over here, nobody's oppressing you. While in fact, the public has been oppressed all the time. So that's why eventually they had this backdoor policy. They call it the backdoor policy, in Dutch, achterdeurbeleid. Why call it backdoor policy? Why? Because we're part of the criminal realm. You have to be inaugurated through a backdoor initiation, where you have a gang of warlocks busting your ass. That's how you become part of the criminal world. Okay? You can do crime in the streets, selling pills and drugs, whatever, for a little while, and get away with it if the cops don't catch you. But to actually be part of the criminal world and to get the respect and homage and security in the streets, you need to be inaugurated in backdoor through backdoor initiations. So that the Dutch government called this soft drugs policy a backdoor policy. They're already telling you with the name that it's a pagan thing. So the backdoor policy is like this. You want to sell weed? You can sell weed in your assigned coffee shop. Coffee shop in the Netherlands doesn't refer to a place you can go and buy coffee. We have actual coffee shops over here, of course, besides Starbucks. But coffee shop in the Netherlands is a term referring to where you can get your weeds or your soft drugs. The thing is, they don't want you to sell drugs in the streets. If you sell weed in the streets, you get arrested. But you're allowed to sell it in those coffee shops. How you get the weed, that's a backdoor policy. You deal with how you get it. We just don't want you to produce it in mass. How can you sell something you don't produce? And if you're not allowed to import it, how else can you sell it? So it's a contradiction. But because people can get weed and be at ease, they don't think further. Because the thing is, alcoholism used to be a bigger problem in the Netherlands. Well, it actually still is, but it used to be a bigger problem linked to a lot of domestic violence in homes. So the government realized, you know what? If you offer them a substitute addiction to smoking cannabis, well, then the public will be more relaxed. But because alcohol tends to cause a lot of trouble. So they kind of replace one problem with the other. So that explains the backdoor policy of the Netherlands. Backdoor. And we know what backdoor door initiations are. Okay? So actually with this, the Dutch government is stimulating the criminal world. That's really what they're doing. All right. So how do you uproot this game that's been going on for centuries? Well, as believers, it's quite simple. You face the fact that this is going on. You face the fact that many people around you have been dysfunctional, that a lot of folks around you are dysfunctional as a result of generational dysfunction. And this dysfunction is also something that is rooted in all of you over here. So you need to admit that, okay, we're all dysfunctional, we're shaped we're deformed to be dysfunctional. We need to face this, and you know what? We need to let go of those benefits holes there. Those benefits are really killing us, that's actually real benefits. And then you realize, okay, instead of fake benefits, we have real benefits when we walk by faith. So, what do? You break the spells they put on the public. Because one thing a lot of folks don't know, those devil worshippers, they're persistent. For example, one time I was walking through, was it Leiden I was walking through? Or anyway, I was walking through Leiden. And there was this homeless guy walking by shouting. Okay? He was shouting curses. So I thought, okay, it's a homeless guy shouting curses because maybe he's upset because he's homeless. No. I noticed this throughout the Netherlands. homeless people shouting curses out there. Let me reveal one secret to you. Many of those homeless folks here in the Netherlands are not homeless people. They're lying to you. They are warlocks assigned by the shadow government to put spells on the masses. For example, you can get out of the train at Leiden Central Station, and you see this warlock decreeing depression over there. Now, you don't know that it's decreeing depression because most people are in their mobile phones, or they're listening to music, or they're running to catch the bus, or they're heading towards university. So most people are occupied. They don't pay attention to what goes around them. And this guy is decreeing depression on everyone. And before you know it, most of the students over there are depressed. Some even become suicidal. Or you can be, let's say, somewhere in Scheveningen. Scheveningen is a Dutch. It was a Dutch village. It later became part of The Hague. But it's a beach called Scheveningen. Or you can go to Scheveningen and you have those mermaid worshippers, those females walking around, chanting suicidal songs. Yes, they do. And then you think, oh, it's likely some Coptic lady who just wants to get attention. People think, oh, who cares? It's a liberal country anyway. And that's the mistake, because that witch is going around chanting doom over you. And she has an effect on you all. But you're there to go to the beach, to have a good time. Yes, you're there to have a good time with your friends and family, or just there just to relax, enjoy the day. But she's there to make sure all of you go home with weights and wounds to burden you. And by the way, there is a portion of the Dutch public that worships Neptune, who's Neptune, or his real name Poseidon. He's this fallen angel who he was an angelic king who also rebelled against Heavenly Father, declared himself independent, all that bullshit. But Poseidon, or his Roman name Neptunus, or English Neptune, he's the one with the pitchfork. He was the one who also began to rape sea creatures. I don't know how you were able to do that, but he's the father of the sirens. The sirens are sea Nephilim. Sirens are called mermen and mermaids. No, when I talk about mermaids and mermen or sirens, I'm not talking about that those Disney figures look so beautiful. The actual sirens, the actual Nephilim, are horrible looking creatures. But you have a portion of the Dutch public that worships sirens. And here's how it goes. You go to a sea lodge. By the way, in The Hague, you have a few of them. Also in the Dutch province of Zeeland, you have them also. Nobody can keep those things hidden from me. I can recognize them. Because also some black folks worship those creatures. So now you know how I know that. You go to a sea lodge and you become a member. You swear off the Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ after reading the Bible. Because you have to read the Bible first so that you know what you got yourself into. You can swear off the Heavenly Father, the Holy Spirit, and the prophets, and the whole testimony, both Old and New Testaments, and then you pledge allegiance to Neptune. Okay? And to the other gods, referring to the demonic overlords. And then let's say you have Patrick. Patrick is a businessman. He owns a job agency. This job agency, in Dutch, uitzendbureau, that's an agency that helps you find jobs. This owner of the job agency then goes to the sea lodge saying, hey, I want my job agency to prosper. Then the priest tells him, okay, come back next Friday. Okay, so next Friday he comes. And at Friday, they go to the beach, to some secret location. There are people wearing black with candles, dancing and shouting all kinds of weird stuff. And then before you know it, you have those sirens coming out of the sea appearing. These ugly looking filthy entities appear. And then the entities say, who's the one who wants the blessing? Then Patrick comes forth and tells Patrick, take off your clothes. Patrick takes off his clothes and he needs to have sex right there with those sirens. And after having sex with the sirens, he gets some potions. They tell him, smear this on your office when you go. Smear this on your office or spray this at the office. And begin to chant certain songs when you're around. He does that, and before you know it, money drops in like crazy. People who didn't even want to get a job, some things, you know what, I want to get a job. Okay, so his job agency ends up becoming prosperous. And they tell him only hire witches. If you want to hire a woman, hire a witch. Don't hire any common Dutch female. Make sure she's Dutch, make sure she's white, but make sure she's a witch. Hire witches for you, so that who are also in on this. And those witches also do their chantings before they arrive there. So what I'm telling you to do as believers, send peace out of you, something Jesus taught us to do. Pagans do a similar thing, but they send unrest ahead of them. Yes, those witches, when they go to their work, before they do it, they chant confusion ahead of them to work in their favor. So you have this job agency owned by Patrick with witches working for him and some other common men, and the agency is quite successful. But then there are times he needs to give some tribute to Neptune. And the tribute is going to be, there must be some sexual molestation going on. Or some of those workers that work for you must die in trash accidents. So those witches then generate a negative climate. They put death spells on some of the workers over there. And before you know it, you hear about a guy called Dan. Dan is a Dutch shortening of Daniel, or Dutch is Daniel. You hear that Dan, a 25-year-old Dutchman, went to work, he had an accident, and he died. Then his family is hurt, and they're grieving and burying him. But nobody understands how the accident could happen. Well, I'm telling you why. The witches at the job agency, they're the ones that triggered it. And when the guy dies, then Patrick is called and says, you did a good job. You're going to earn 1 million euros extra next year as a reward. That's how it goes. So if you're in the Netherlands and you want to get a job, you can use job agencies, but I'm telling you, beware, because a lot of job agencies, their owners are worshippers of sirens, or we call them mermaids, and well, you may end up dying one day as tribute to Neptune, or if you don't die, you end up paralyzed, or you end up losing a few fingers, or becoming blind, whatever, it happens. And then the owners of those job agencies, they get a bonus behind the scenes, and the witch get a pat on the back. The witch are the most pathetic ones of all. They do all of this, endangering other people, killing people. They only get a pat on the back. They're cheap, but anyway. So that happens. So let's see if I get any. All right, didn't get any questions. And those who don't worship sirens in the Netherlands, they go to African wizards, because that's the thing I'm embarrassed about. You have black people doing this dumb shit. You have African wizards coming all the way to the Netherlands to be a middleman between the demons and those that seek fortune. How can you get fortune from demons? But okay, it happens. So in Leiden, Delft, also Rotterdam, and to reach also Amsterdam, you have those African wizards, and some of them aren't directly from Africa. They're from the Dutch Caribbean, like from Curacao or Aruba or Bonaire. You have those black men who become wizards. They are part of Satan's government, fully dedicated, possessed by legions of demons, and they're there they're the ones writing down demonic contracts, and they're the ones also selling charms to the public. And by the way, there are many people in the Netherlands going to those African wizards to get charms. Many. Some of those people are white Dutch people who have this racist attitude. They can't stand foreigners. They can't stand Moroccans. They can't stand black people. But they go multiple times a month to a black wizard to get charms. They're hypocritical. And by the way, I even consider some of those political figures in the Netherlands who are quite nationalistic to be suspect of doing this. I won't mention names. If you're from the Netherlands, you know which political figures I'm talking about. Those nationalistic, fatherland-loving politicians who are all about wanting to help the white man and white woman. They're lying to you. They don't give a damn about you. I'm telling you. As it is. So, yes. The Netherlands is not the worst of the worst countries to live in, absolutely not. I grew up here, it has academic opportunities, and if you can't find work, there's welfare, we'll also help you out. So hey, I'm not being bitter and cynical over here, but there's a lot of devil worship happening also, and sometimes it's too much in your face, and I get irritated when people don't notice it. And that's why I'm also recording this live stream for you to understand this happens. And I'm telling you, beware with job agencies, okay? Look, if you have to remain unemployed for a little while, get some welfare, so pay it, do it. Yeah, but Rashid, if I'm on welfare, people will look down on me. People are going to avoid me. Oh! So just because you're not working 40 hours a week, exhaust yourself, people look down on you? Well, you know what? Let them look down on you. You don't need those people. If your mom or dad doesn't want to even look at you anymore because you're not working full time, I'm sorry, but I need to disengage with your mom and dad. Listen, believers. I'm talking to the people in the Netherlands who are believers now, because unbelievers unfortunately don't listen to what I'm saying. If you're a believer in the Netherlands, I don't care whether you're a native Dutch white believer or you're a foreigner living in the Netherlands. Listen, if you're a believer in the Netherlands, if you are without a job now and you try to get a job, if you just can't get a job, stay without a job for a moment. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Because a lot of employers here, they go to mermaids, yeah, or they go to African visitors to get their jobs. Now, there are white visitors around, but the white visitors mainly deal with political campaigns. For if you want to open a church to exploit people, don't go to the white visitors. You have to go to the African visitors, or you need to just go to the mermaid worshippers. So many of the churches in the Netherlands are also secretly worshipping mermaids. Beware of that. And at Leiden University, there are quite some young people, students, who show a lot of interest in mermaid worship and witchcraft and all of that. So, and there are quite some bitter, angry, disappointed witches walking around there also. They look angry all the time. Well, lady, I'm not going to use the B word right now. I'm going to keep it polite. Well, lady, who told you that witchcraft was all that? Why not leave the witchcraft? But anyway, you see a lot of female students in these universities. They walk around angry and bitter all the time. Oh, that's the backfire of the witchcraft. Well, you know what? Just leave that crap alone. No, they won't. Just want to get sympathy. Well, not over here. I had one of those witches one time turning on me just because she saw me talking at peace with someone else. Okay, so be it. Praise the Lord. I'm not going to pay much attention to that. Anyway, this is the blueprint used on the Netherlands, on the Dutch population. And it doesn't matter whether you're a native white Dutch individual or you are a foreigner, someone that naturalized over here. This is what they use on you. And they use those tragic events from time to time to put you under this weight of anxiety. Because all about you feeling like you don't matter, you becoming narcissistic and antisocial, all about you being threatened. So I point this out to you. Don't fall for this. Please don't fall for the fake benefits. If there's any benefit you hold on to so much, you're going to pray about it. Going to pray about it. If there's any benefit you have difficulty letting go, that means that benefit is an idol. I mean, that thing is something that Satan is using to keep to hold you back. Well, to all the Dutch people watching this live stream, please turn to Christ. If you're already following Christ, I'm happy you do. And please, walk in power. Because it's only walk in power that will shut this thing down. Or just like the Dutch Prime Minister said one time in a press conference, it stops when Dutch people want it to stop. He wasn't referring to this crisis that goes on right now. Okay? I'm not going to mention the name. Go to the YouTube community guidelines. He was secretly referring to this because he's part of it. I saw this man one time before he went to Korea I was walking around and I saw two politicians walking. I said, oh, that's the prime minister. He looked at me, eye contact for just a few seconds. I looked away because I don't want to see this demon-possessed creep. Anyway, the Dutch public's been way too tolerant of all of this. It's time to stop that. That's why I say to the believers in the Netherlands, please uproot this over here, uproot this blueprint. Because only then that long-term improvement can happen over here. Because as long as this on the Dutch public, this country and the people will be used as a cover-up for pedophilia networks worldwide. And by the way, the Netherlands is the primary country worldwide that hosts child pornography online. Look and research yourself, okay? There's also one big country involved in child trafficking, okay? So this dual trauma on the public is to keep the public exhausted and so that things like child trafficking and child pornography can easily have its way. And there are quite some warlocks walking around who think it's a good thing to molest children as a gift to Satan. You have them walking around. So, yes, let's do something about it by dealing with the root of it, which is spiritual. All right? All right, so that's what I have to say for this live stream. It's a lot of information, understand it. Please replay the live stream later on to make notes and all of that. But if you have any questions right now, and those who are live now at the live stream, please ask now. I'll wait for a minute to see if I get any questions. IPVP, goedenavond, vielen dank. Well, IPVP, I'm at the end of the live stream now, but please, people are asking questions. Stay for the answer for the questions. If there are any questions, and later you can always replay the live stream to get the full class, which is good. Just wait a half hour so that YouTube can process it. This live stream, I mean. Again, are there any questions about this topic? I'll wait for a moment to get some questions. I'll wait. God is good. Okay. All right. I'll wait for an half minute more. If I don't get any questions, I'll close down the live stream. Just realize the following. Yes, the Dutch public is also at fault due to neglect of facing the situation, that's true. But it doesn't take away that the Dutch public is also victimized on a regular basis by this. So for those willing to be free and willing to actually want to live, I feel all of this. And if you walk by faith and you're that individual, please work with what I'm teaching you and also what I teach you on the live streams and put it into practice, please. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you all for being here and watching. I pray, decree, and declare that this teaching will cause a breakthrough for believers throughout the Netherlands. I command in Christ's mighty name. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time.